I'm sharing the screen. So let's start with the Urochordata characters, classification, and affinities. As we have already seen in the previous class, the Urochordates are a subphylum of the phylum, you can say, or a group of animals having peculiar characters have been referred as the protochordates. Protochordates have officially originally have three groups: the hemichordata, urochordata, and cephalochordata. Hemichordata is now questionable, rather no more kept with the protochordates. It is a branch of non-chordates only. That characters affinities have been done in the previous record. Now let's start with the Urochordata. As the name is mentioning here, the Urochordates are the marine protochordates commonly called as sea squids. The previously also we have already discussed that Urochordates, as the name Euro is associated with the tail, and so it is probably becomes evident that these are the animals having a tail, but that's not very true. But थोड़ा सा फाइलोजेनी इनकी डिबेटेबल हो सकती है, ड्रामेटिक हो सकती है, जिनमें कि लार्वल फॉर्म्स में एक बड़ा प्रोमिनेंट, बहुत प्रोमिनेंट टेल होता है, और कॉर्डेट फीचर्स, मेन दो कॉर्डेट फीचर जो हैं यूरोकॉर्डेटा के, या कॉर्डेट फीचर सॉरी, दो मेन कॉर्डेट फीचर्स, दैट इज the dorsal tubular nerve cord and the notochord are present in this tail region of this Urochordata. So this Urochordata is showing a dramatic change in its life history. That is, its larval form is much more chordate type, having all the three chordate characters. That is, this is the pharyngeal region where the pharyngeal basket is present with numerous clefts or the branchial opening, and this is the post-anal tail, a long post-anal tail have bearing this nerve cord and notochord. This in their typical chordate conditions, which are lost when this larva, this Ascidian, this is a larva of Ascidian larva, or Ascidian tadpole larva also it is called. When it metamorphoses into adult, the adult body becomes a sac-like structure devoid of the two important chordate characters, the nerve cord and notochord, which are shed off during the metamorphosis. So this is a very dramatic metamorphic change, which is already we have seen, which is called as retrogressive metamorphosis. That is, the larva is much more chordate-like and the adult is more non-chordate-like. In adults, they are more like invertebrates. Therefore, the characters we are discussing in two headings: larval characters. So this is the elongated larva of Ascidian larva. Notochord restricted at the caudal end. ये notochord है जो सिर्फ tail region में present है, जबकि nerve cord it is extending end to end. Then the dorsal hollow nerve cord extends end to end. The pharyngeal gill slits are present, and it is a highly active post-anal tail is always visible. Now, regarding the adult characters of Urochordata, this is an adult Urochordata, that is an Ascidia. This is ये पहले भी हम लोग देख चुके हैं. These are the colonial forms, sessile forms, fixed forms होते हैं इनके, and they remain, they are exclusively marine. The examples are of some of the examples, actually ये एक class के examples हैं Ascidia से, Siona and Herdmania. They are the examples of one class of Urochordata. But this figure is the figure diagrammatic representation, or you can say the diagrammatically showing all parts of a Herdmania and adult Accidia. This is having the body is covered by a tunic. That is why they are called as tunicata also. And this tunic is composed of a protein tunisin and a polysaccharide similar to plant cellulose. प्लांट सेलुलोज की तरह का एक पॉलीसेकेराइड और ट्यूनिसिन प्रोटीन मिलकर के बनाता है इसके ट्यूनिक को. And hence the animals are also called as tunicates. The adults are sessile and attached to the substratum of the sea. Sea से ये एक फूड की हेल्प से सी सरफेस से सी शोर से अटैच रहते हैं. द बॉडी इज परफोरेटेड बाय two main openings, the atrial aperture. This is the incurrent branchial aperture. The water bath when comes inside through this aperture, baths the entire body, baths the pharyngeal basket where several gill clips are present, and water enters through this branchial aperture into the branchial or oral or incurrent siphon, and then baths through the entire body, and through atrial siphon it comes into the it goes out through the atrial aperture. This is a very simplified structure of an adult Assyrian. The adults are sessile, attached to substratum. Incurrent branchial siphon and excurrent atrial siphon form entrance and exit portals for the water. The branchial siphon opens into a branchial basket, that is pharynx. That I'll show you how this branchial basket acts. This is the figure of the diagrammatic representations of the entire Assyrian, typical Assyrian form. अगर हम cross sectional में देखें, this is the cross sectional view of an Assyria having this atrial siphon from where water enters. This is the ventral blood sinus. This is dorsal blood sinus. And these are the musculature present into the Assyria. This is the endostyle. This is sagittal section, diagrammatic representation is here. And this is the one side of the body open to show internal structure. Again, this is a diagrammatic representation. The water enters through this incurrent siphon. Here is the so-called mouth or opening covered with the oral tentacles. These tentacles act as filter feeders. They filter and they catch or they strain out the feeding particles and not usable particles, and this water enters with the feeding food into this branchial basket. This is the branchial basket, you can see, having numerous clefts and small chamber-like structures, and having this dorsal lamina where the blood supply is there. And this is nerve ganglion. In adult, the nerve is in form of a single ganglia, whereas in adult it is in form of a extended nerve cord. This siphon we have already seen. There are two siphon, incurrent siphon, and this is the atrial siphon or the excurrent siphon. This is the single small heart, and this is the alimentary canal. Into the loop of this alimentary canal lies the single gonad. They are the hermaphrodites having one single ovary and single testis, and this is the alimentary canal with a dilated stomach. And this is the course of circulation of the blood, which is entirely colorless and very small in amount, that is only for the distribution of the assimilated food. This is the heart, this is the posterior vessel, this is subendostyle vessel, and this is the dorsal lamina. It is seen here, and these are the vessels of branchial branch. These are supposed to be like the in chordates. These are these probably they convert into the gill rachis and gill filaments. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the structure of Urochordata. The sexes are separate, comprises mostly brightly colored. Species are solitary. Some species are solitary, but others are colonial. The adults are sessile, larvae are planktonic and pelagic, and they are freely moving. uh, now the characters we have seen, their tiny finger-like sensory tentacles are present in incurrent siphon to examine the incoming water and prevent large particles from entering. Now, the important characters we have seen now, the classification of Urochordata. The subphylum is divided into three classes: Ascidia, Thaliacea, and Larvaceae. So one by one, let us see. The Ascidia is the first class. This is the Ascidian larvae we have already seen, और जो अभी हमने structure देखा characters. This is the Ascidian example of Ascidia is Herdmania, and the main characters of this class Ascidia are mostly they are brightly colored marine animals which are mainly solitary, uh, but colonial forms are also known. Adults are sessile, larvae are planktonic, and they do not feed. Non-feeding movement mode is of the Ascidian larvae. Adults having sac-like body covered by a tunic. Most of the chordate characters were present during larval period, but now they have disappeared, and this is the adult form. Whereas except for these branchial clefts or branchial openings present into the pharynx, there are no chordate characters are present. Nervous system transfers into a single nerve ganglion. The example is the herdmania. Then comes the next class, that is the next class is the class Ascidia, then comes the Thaliacea. The characters of class Thaliacea are free-living pelagic urochordates. They are the free-living pelagic urochordates. ये sessile नहीं होते हैं, fixed नहीं होते हैं. The tunic is transparent. These are the examples of Thaliacea, Doliolum, and Salpa. The tunic is transparent, very thin, deposits encircling circumferential bands of muscles within the wall of the test. These are the bands of muscles in both in Doliolum also and in Salpa also. These are the bands of muscles which are very clearly visible as the tunic is very much transparent. The incurrent and excurrent siphons are present at the opposite ends of the body. एक end से पानी incurrent करता है, and this is the atrial aperture from where the water goes outside. So this is this doliolum. This is the incurrent siphon, water entering and coming out. Here in Salpa, this is the branchial aperture, water entering and coming out. And these are so many characters, like it very much resembles like the Ascidia. Incurrent and excurrent siphons are present, few pharyngeal gill slits are present. Of course, the gill slits are a few in comparison to those present in Ascidia. In the life cycle, polymorphism and clear alternation of generation are evident. Doliolum salpa में एक बहुत important characteristic पाया जाता है, asexual and sexual life cycle alternatively appear होते हैं, and that is called as alternation of generation. The examples are Doliolum and Salpa. Then the third class is class Larvaceae. This is Thaliacea we have already seen. The third class is class Larvaceae. The Larvaceae, the general characters, these are the figures of the Larvaceae, that is oicopleura or appendicularia is also. These are the two examples of class Larvaceae or appendicularia. This is also called as class appendicularia. These are tiny marine planktonic urochordates found worldwide. Larvaceae received their name because the adult retain larval characters similar in some way to the Ascidian tadpole with its tail and trunky. जैसे आपको दिख रहा है, ये elongated structures हैं और इनको Larvaceae इसलिए कहा गया है कि इनका जो structure, adult का जो structure है, that resembles the Ascidian tadpole larva. Tail है, notochord है, nerve cord है, और ये जो लार्वल कैरेक्टर्स हैं ये लार्वा के में भी अपीयर होते हैं और ये रिटेन कर जाते हैं, एंड इन दिस structure only, in this type of structure only, they start reproducing, bearing the sex organs, the gonads, and that is why in some of the some कई जगह आप देखिएगा कि the larvaceae के जो members हैं यूरोकॉर्डेटा के, they show a type of neotenous development. Neoteny term you must have heard. The development of the during the metamorphic development from of larva into the adult retain the larval characters and they start reproducing, and that phenomenon is called as neoteny. So these larvaceae, the members of this larvaceae of Urochordata, they it is said that to some extent they show neoteny, that is the larval characters they retain, and along with that those larval characters they start the reproducing also sexually, and that is a very remarkable phenomenon of neoteny. The general resemblance of adult larvation to Assyrian tadpoles suggests that larvation may be the neotenous forms. They produce a remarkable feeding apparatus that consists of three components: screens, filters, and expanded gelatinous matrix. This is a remarkable gelatinous feeding apparatus. Here you must be looking, it is a feeding apparatus comprising of screen, filter, feeding filters, and gelatinous matrices here. This structure is present here through which the water enters with a very successful filtering of the water current. The trunk holds major body organs. The tail is thin and flat. The muscle bands act on notochord to produce movement. With the help of the muscle bands, with the contraction and expansion of these muscle bands, they produce movement. A tubular nerve cord is present. The notochord, typical notochord is present. A tubular nerve cord is present in dorsal to the notochord, and all species are monoecious. That is the hermaphrodites having both the gonads, testis and ovary, but most of them are protandrous. I think we have already discussed too much about the protandrous protogynous type. That is, though they are hermaphrodites, the self-fertilization is not possible because of protandrous condition. That is, the sperm matures before the ovary and or the ovum, and that is why the cross fertilization is always required. So this is about the classification of Urochordata. Now comes the affinities of Urochordata. Urochordata are having remarkable affinities with some of the non-chordates, and a few then on other hand with the protochordates. Their affinities with the non-chordates are as such: the food collection similar to sponges, mussels, and lophophores. Typhlosole in the intestine like the annelids. Presence of larval eye and oocytes like the mollusks and echinoderms. Then budding leading to a chain of new zooids. This is the polymorphism type of structure of Coelenterata. And colony formation is there. This is also a polymorphic condition, may be compared as of the coelenterates. But their peculiar characters, which can be said as the dissimilarities with the non-chordate, is fish-like tadpole larva bearing the chordate characters and absence of pharyngeal gill slits. The pharyngeal gill slits are not found in these two characters. Both of these two characters are not found at all in any non-chordata. So it is clearly not related to the non-chordates. Then the affinities with hemichordata. The next group, hemichordata का phylogenetic condition हम लोग बहुत बार discuss कर चुके हैं. So it is said that the Urochordata may be associated, or the Urochordates may have greater affinities with the hemichordates. The most important similarities are to be mentioned is the structure of pharynx, development of central part of the nervous system. but dissimilarities are absence of endostyle helping in food collection in hemichordata. हेमिकॉर्डेटा में प्रॉपर एंडोस्टाइल जो हायर फॉर्म्स में था रैट ग्लैंड में कन्वर्ट होता है, इट वाज नॉट फाउंड. एक कॉर्डेट जो हम वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड कि एक एंडोस्टाइल की तरह का स्ट्रक्चर ऑब्जर्व किया गया था, but later this view has been completely discarded. So on the basis of these similarities and dissimilarities, they were not associated with hemichordata. And finally, with the final group of protochordata, that is with the cephalochordata, affinities of urochordata with cephalochordata having these similarities, that the body shape, and this is to be noted that the similarities are mostly with the larval form of the urochordata. Urochordata का larva ज़्यादा cephalochordata से resemble करता है in body shape, presence of dorsal and ventral fins, presence of velum and velar tentacles, filter feeders, cleavage and gastrulation बहुत ज़्यादा similar होता है, mode of development of notochord and nervous system, presence of notochord, similar arterial complex with endostyle, pharyngeal groove and epipharyngeal bands. These are the characters which are show close affinities of urochordate with cephalochordates. But dissimilarities were mostly lying into the adult forms, which is the adult urochordata is not in any way comparable with the brachiostoma or the adult cephalochordata. So finally, that view also has been discarded, and they have been kept into another group or separate group, that is urochordata. Then the urochordates were have been shown to show affinities with chordates also, and on the basis of which it is considered that they may occupy some position directly. Urochordates on the evolutionary path, they have shown direct evolution of urochordates from urochordata. One of the view was that, and that view depended upon the observation of these similarities. Tadpole larva possesses major basic features of chordates: presence of gill slits, presence of notochord, and dorsal tubular hollow nerve cord. Among the chordates also, their affinities have been observed with vertebrates. Chordata और vertebrata में difference हम लोग बहुत बार देख चुके हैं. नोटोकॉर्ड जब vertebrae में convert करता है to break करके नोटोकॉर्ड convert करता है vertebral column में, तो those animals are the vertebrates. तो vertebrates के साथ भी urochordata की affinities observe की गई है. That is the tadpole larva similar to fish larva, feeding mechanism similar to ammoset larva. Cyclostome larva है petromyzon का, and some larval amphibians. Nasal gland similar to hypophysis. Gonadotropism stimulates ascidian neural gland. So these are the characters resembling to vertebrates. So finally, we can reach with the this conclusion. There are still controversies. बहुत सारे urochordata, as we have seen, protochordata का बहुत formal क्लासिफिकेशन और फाइलोजेनी अभी तक established नहीं है. Urochordata occupies a position in the lower rung of hierarchy of chordata, but they are divided in ascertaining the exact pathway of their origin. Some suggest there are 3-4 views of the phylogeny of Urochordata where it can be placed into the evolutionary tree. Some suggest that the development of sexual maturity along with other complexities in the larval form led to elimination of ancestral adult phases, and degenerated forms are descendants of ancestors having all chordate features. Others hold that they were lowly organized forms which never reached the level of simplest form of chordates. A third group believes that the appendicular larva is a primitive one, giving rise to a stationary adult having degenerated vertebrate characters. One more view is that the doliodits, that is the doliolums, have undergone neoteny to produce present-day urochordates. Regarding the interrelationship within the urochordate, it is believed that Larvaceae is the most primitive forms. Thalassae developed from fixed forms close to ancestral compound Assyrians, which gave rise to Pyrosomida, that is a group of the Urochordates only. So with this ends the Urochordata, and in the next class we will see about the Cephalochordata.
हेलो मैम।
You haven't left
मैम
yet. छोड़ दीजिए.
मैम सुनिए ना, एक क्वेश्चन पूछना था। हेलो,
अभी रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है, मैंने बोला था ना बीच में हम लोग कोई बात नहीं करेंगे. रुकिए 1 मिनट, हमको रिकॉर्डिंग बंद करने दीजिए. हाँ